This is going back to 2002. Listen, I had no cell phone. The internet was still, kind of like the Wild West. There was no Facebook. There was no convenient way to reach out and get just thousands of people. And my wife was pregnant, and you guys know that I'm a cancer survivor, and it was like a miracle pregnancy. After everything I was through, and it was a rough pregnancy, and our doctor didn't want her working, and I was a high school teacher at the time, and we had no money. And I had been doing some private lessons and whatnot, and I think I've talked about this before, but the trick to these private lessons and what we help you do here is to move, and I've talked about this before, about the level from level 1 tactical and level 2 experiential to level 3 transformational. And I didn't even realize I was doing this back then. But what I was doing, again, I was a high school teacher, and so I was using martial arts to help, instead of just being a tutor. What I was doing is I was helping student athletes, because I was a student athlete who had terrible grades, student athletes increase their focus through martial arts, and then give them some learning tips and homework tips and scheduling tips to keep them organized, because that's really what athletes need, and their grades were doing better. And everybody who comes into our program, obviously, it's customized around what you want and who you want to teach, and we have guys teaching adults, some teaching senior citizens, some teaching special needs kids, some teaching just flat out other high level martial artists. Doesn't really matter. But my program was specifically to help student athletes gain focus and increase their grades. Right. So at the time, I was charging like $40 an hour, like a regular tutor, and I had a number of clients. But we were so behind the eight ball financially one month. We didn't calculate things. We were still young, and we were in a bind, and like we needed like $3,000. Like immediately, like there was like we were tapped out credit wise. We needed $3,000. And we had basically like $500 left to our name. And what I did is I wrote first of all, of course, I asked all my current clients for referrals and this and that, whatever else. But, this is like, your martial arts schools. Like when you're not charging enough at your school or for whatever you're charging privately now, like they only refer people that are still want to pay the same price. You know what I mean? So like a $40 person is only going to refer a $40 person. You have somebody in your martial arts school who's paying $100 a month. Guess what? They're only going to refer other people that pay $100. Whole other ball of wax with high ticket clients, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So make a long story short is, resource wise, we were tapped out, whatever else. I paid $300. I wrote like a 2-page kind of sales letter, right? I really didn't have any idea what I was doing at the time, but I just did the best I could and followed some examples and this and that. And again, the internet, nobody really knew how to use it back then for that kind of thing. So basically, I put it as an insert into the newspapers, into the local paper. So it went out to, 1,000 homes or something like that in the area that I was targeting. And it was at the end of the thing, it said, call my home number. There was I didn't even have a cell phone back then. So I would go to work and I came home, and the day after the newspaper came out, I actually had 5 calls, right? Which is pretty cool. Now, I called those 5 people back, and 3 people answered, or I got in touch with them. I had no idea how to follow up. I had no idea how to sell. I had no idea what I was doing. And out of those 3 people, I got invited myself, right, to one of their homes for an assessment and in a conversation. And I actually signed that client. And here's the funny part is we needed $3,000, right? And so I was, usually I would just do it on a week by week basis. $40, and oh my God, that's like what, 100 sessions, right? And so I was like on the way there. I remember I was in the car, and it was after school, and I was late. Not late, but there was a lot of traffic, right? And I thought I was going to be late, and so I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, how am I going to get all this money up front? And what was cool, and this is really the magic of transformational private lessons, is that when I got there, they were so happy to see me because they had been dealing with this for so long. They had sent their son to, he was a great athlete, but his grades were just crap. And he just couldn't pull him up. And he was a pretty bright kid, but listen, his school sucks, He just didn't want to do it. He wanted to just get through school to go to practice. And he'd been to learning centers and had private tutors and, extra help. And he was, his parents were really concerned because they were talking about now classifying him in the school system and putting him into special ed classes, which this is early 2000s, they really weren't as advanced as they are now with whatever else. And so, they didn't want all this because it was jeopardized. They wanted him to go to college and all this other stuff. And so, basically I listened to their problems and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And here's how I do it. And they said, okay, well, cool. How much is it going to cost? And I said, well, and I made a mistake. I literally made a mistake. I was going to say, well, listen, it's going to take me 30 sessions, right? And then I was going to charge $100 an hour. But instead I said, well, listen, it's going to take me 10 sessions, right? To get him where he needs to be. And to do that, it's going to be $3,000, right? And they're like, okay. And they wrote me a check. And I was like, when they wrote me a check, I was like I felt like fuzzy, and I was like, because I realized I was like, oh shit, I meant to say 30 sessions for $3,000 as opposed to 10 sessions. But I for some reason, it just came out. And that became a big secret, right? And that's what I'm happy to share with you guys, is that it's not the time you put into it. It's the outcome you can get for these people, right? That's the big thing here. They don't want this long, dragged out thing. We're not talking about making people into super duper black belt martial artists. That takes time. And that's a whole nother ball of wax, which we help you with also, because there's no way people should be paying you only 50, 100, or even, $150 for that a month, right? That is a much bigger solution as well, an outcome that needs to be positioned and articulated and framed properly. But as far as the private lessons, right, that was like the beginning of everything for me. Is, that one person, I realized that this was possible, and that launched, right, multiple private lessons, and even my big publishing company, which then I eventually shut down and went back to private lessons, and even my schools, right, which then I went back to private lessons, and it just became a lot of fun. And now, obviously, we've been doing this for so long, we've helped so many martial artists, we have this down to a science. It's amazing. Like I was talking about the newspaper. And everybody's always looking for the tactics. How do I get more students in the door? How do I, get more leads? It's bullshit. It's bullshit because, listen, you can get the Groupon crowd in, right? These stupid fucking advertising agencies that are promising like this nonsense of like, oh, well, listen, we'll fill your gym. Well, great. You can fill it with garbage, right? I don't want that. These people are going to stick around for a couple months, pay me like $50, which I then have to pay you, right? And then I'm left with nothing. I just worked for nothing, right? As opposed to an actual structured process and systems. Businesses are about systems, and if you have to keep it simple, right? Because if it's not simple, something breaks. That's why if you've ever bought anything from one of them internet gurus, right? They make things so complicated by the time you figure it out, like it's done, right? That flash in the pan method is done, and now they're selling you something else, right? So it's not difficult if I was able to do that, when I was in my early 20s, 20 years ago, I was in my early 20s, and we had all that pressure on me, and I totally had no idea what I was doing at the time, and I still pulled it off, right? And now we have the process down to a science, and the success stories out the wahoo for this, then you can do it too, right? So I just wanted to kind of share that with you guys. Listen, if you are a martial arts instructor, doesn't matter if you own your own school, that helps because now we can get things done very, very quickly, right? But if you are a volunteer instructor, if you're an assistant instructor, a head instructor, if you just do seminars, we've actually had a lot of firearms instructors come in lately that we're working with. Guys are teaching on the beach and the parks, wherever else, doesn't really matter. But if you are a professional martial arts instructor, right? Somebody who gets paid for teaching what you know, and you have life experience on top of that to share, meaning you've used your martial arts training to help yourself and help other people get places in life, right? Like I was just talking about where I help struggling student athletes. Listen, if it wasn't for my judo instructor, there's no way I would have graduated high school or college, right? But if you're a martial arts instructor, listen, give us a call, right? Go to, if you haven't, please, oh my gosh, if you have not watched our free masterclass by now, how to add an extra $10,000 to $25,000 a month to your martial arts business by getting 5 to 10 private clients. Go watch that. That's just at WayOfTheWarrior.org. You can log in for free and watch that. Or if you have seen that, you've seen my videos, you're a professional martial arts instructor, you want to start and you want to develop a plan, at least with us, to see what it looks like to get you from where you are now into the life that you really want, teaching high-end private lessons, high-end group lessons, high-end small group lessons, right? It's all the same architecture. It's really how you put that plan together, and we're happy to do that for you for free. So you can just go to WayOfTheWarrior.org/talk and find a time, and we're happy to help you out. All right, guys? But I wanted to share that with you. Otherwise, WayOfTheWarrior.org, WayOfTheWarrior.org/talk, and I'll talk to you next time. Later, guys.